MPs vote down amendments to frustrate Chagos surrender as two Labour rebels defy PM over weak deal. When only two of your own MPs bother to rebel against a deal that's been absolutely savaged by the President of the United States, you've either got ironclad party discipline or everyone's just given up caring. Welcome back to UK Political Insight, where today we're unpacking the parliamentary drama around the Chagos Islands deal that just won't die. Keir Starmer's government just bulldozed through amendments from the House of Lords, brushed off criticism from Donald Trump like lint on a suit, and somehow convinced almost the entire Labour Party to vote for a deal that involves handing over British territory and paying Mauritius for the privilege. Only two Labour MPs, count them, two, decided this was the hill worth dying on. Grab your tea, get comfortable, and let's dive into this geopolitical mess that's got more twists than a spy novel, and somehow even less transparency. So here's what just happened in Parliament. The House of Commons voted down 3 amendments that the Lords had added to the Chagos bill. Amendments designed to, add some basic accountability and transparency to a deal that involves surrendering sovereignty over strategically important territory. The amendments wanted to stop payments to Mauritius, outline full costings so taxpayers know what they're actually paying for, and publish details about how these payments were calculated. All perfectly reasonable requests that you'd think any Democratic parliament would support. Except Keir Starmer's government said no, whipped their MPs to vote them down, and almost everyone fell in line like obedient soldiers. Almost everyone. Graham Stringer, MP for Blackley and Middleton South, and Peter Lamb, MP for Crawley, decided to rebel on the amendments about stopping payments and outlining costs. They were joined by Belle Ribeiro Addy, former deputy leadership contender, who defied the Prime Minister on publishing methodology for the payments. So that's 3 Labour MPs out of how many? Labour's got over 400 MPs in Parliament right now. 3 rebelled. That's less than 1%. That's not a rebellion. That's barely a strongly worded suggestion. Now, Graham Stringer had earlier urged the government to pause the deal following Donald Trump's recent criticism. Trump, in his usual subtle fashion, had absolutely torn into the Chagos Agreement, calling it a bad deal for Britain and the West, which is rich coming from someone whose relationship with strategic consistency is about as stable as his relationship with truth. But Trump's criticism, however hypocritical it might be given that his administration initially praised the deal, has genuine political weight. When the President of the United States, your most important ally, the country that actually operates the Diego Garcia military base this whole thing is supposed to protect, says your deal is terrible, you might want to at least pretend to listen. Stringer's call to pause was ignored. The government pressed ahead, voted down the amendments, and the bill moves forward basically unchanged from what Starmer's team originally wanted, which tells you everything about how important this deal is to the Prime Minister personally. He's not willing to compromise, not willing to add transparency measures, not willing to delay even when facing international criticism and domestic concern. This is happening, and it's happening on his terms, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Let's talk about what these amendments actually wanted, because understanding what got voted down matters. Amendment 1 would have stopped payments to Mauritius entirely. The government's paying Mauritius to take sovereignty of islands that Mauritius claims already belong to them, which is a bit like paying someone to accept a gift they say you stole from them in the first place. The logic is tortured, the optics are terrible, and voters quite reasonably ask why British taxpayers are funding this. The amendment said stop paying them, and Labour MPs voted it down. Amendment 2 wanted full costings. How much is this deal actually going to cost? Not vague estimates, not we'll tell you later, but proper detailed costings so Parliament and the public know what financial commitments are being made. Transparency in government spending, radical concept. Also voted down. The government apparently doesn't want anyone knowing exactly how much this is costing, which historically is a sign that the number is either embarrassingly large or embarrassingly vague because they haven't actually worked it out properly yet. Amendment 3 wanted details about the methodology for calculating payments. If we're paying Mauritius, how was that amount decided? What formula or negotiation process led to this specific figure? Again, basic transparency that any government claiming to be open and accountable should happily provide. Also voted down. Sensing a pattern here? There were also amendments about holding a referendum for Chagosians on the terms of the treaty, giving the actual people affected by this deal a say in their future. Revolutionary stuff. Those amendments weren't even voted on because the Speaker ruled they would impose a charge on public revenue, which the House of Lords isn't allowed to do. So the Chagosians, who were forcibly removed from their islands decades ago and have been fighting for their rights ever since, don't get a vote on what happens to their homeland. They don't get a say. The deal gets done to them, not with them, and Parliament doesn't even vote on whether that's acceptable. The government's defense of all this is that the deal provides a firm legal basis for operating the Diego Garcia military facility. Ministers claim it's necessary because international court rulings favoring Mauritian sovereignty claims threaten the base's future, which sounds reasonable until you dig into it and realize that the international court rulings were advisory, not binding, and Britain could have continued operating the base while disputing Mauritian claims indefinitely if they'd wanted to. Other countries do this all the time. China ignores international court rulings about the South China Sea. Russia ignores everything. America picks and chooses which international legal opinions it respects. Britain could have said, "We acknowledge the ICJ's opinion, but maintain our position," and carried on. Instead, Starmer's government decided to negotiate this deal, surrender sovereignty, pay Mauritius, and claim it's all necessary for legal compliance. Either they're genuinely committed to international law in a way that's almost naive given how other powers behave, or there's another reason they wanted this deal that they're not being honest about. We don't know because the government won't say, and Parliament just voted down amendments that would have required more transparency. The vote totals tell their own story. When amendments fail with only 2 or 3 Labour MPs rebelling, that's not democratic deliberation, that's a rubber stamp. The government proposed something, the Lords tried to improve it, and the Commons just rejected those improvements because the PM said so. That's executive dominance over legislature. That's the government treating Parliament as an obstacle to manage rather than a partner in governance. And the saddest part is this will probably work. The bill will pass, the deal will go ahead, Mauritius will get sovereignty and money, Britain will keep operating Diego Garcia, the Chagosians will remain dispossessed, and in a few months, everyone will have moved on to the next crisis. There won't be political consequences for Starmer because Labour's majority is too large. There won't be public outrage because most voters don't know where the Chagos Islands are or why they matter. It'll just happen. Another fait accompli from a government that's getting very comfortable making big decisions with minimal accountability. The 2 MPs who rebelled deserve credit for at least trying. They stood up, they voted their conscience, they put principle above party loyalty. It didn't change anything, their votes didn't matter in the grand arithmetic of Labour's massive majority, but they did it anyway. That's rare enough in modern politics to be worth acknowledging. Most MPs would have quietly swallowed their doubts and voted with the whip. Stringer and Lamb didn't, and that matters, even if it didn't change the outcome. Looking forward, this deal is happening. Short of some massive unexpected development, the Chagos Islands are becoming Mauritian territory with a British and American military base operating under a long-term lease. Whether that's the right decision strategically, legally, or morally will be debated for years. Whether the British public got a transparent, accountable process or were just told what was happening and expected to accept it is already answered. They got the latter. If you want to follow every development on the Chagos deal, every vote, every reaction, every analysis of what this means for British foreign policy and Labour's approach to governance, you need to subscribe to UK Political Insight right now. We're covering this story from every angle with multiple videos daily, because this matters more than most people realize. Hit that notification bell so you catch every update the moment it drops. Drop a comment telling me whether you think this deal is strategic necessity or strategic blunder, whether Starmer's right to push it through, or whether those amendments should have passed. I genuinely want to hear what you think, because this is one of those issues where reasonable people can disagree. Until next time, keep questioning what you're told, keep demanding transparency from power, and remember that when only 2 MPs rebel, you're not watching democracy in action, you're watching discipline, and there's a big difference between the two.